Hello everybody. I'm just gonna wait for people to join, and I'm going to do a live now, just to cover the subject of the experience of aloneness. That's what I'd like to call it, and I hope this helps anybody. It doesn't matter if you are on a spiritual journey or whether you're not. I hope that what I say and explain will help anybody. And just to say, I haven't done it so far today, but every live I do, I then later upload to YouTube. So friends and family, if they're not on Facebook, you can just, if you feel they're feeling alone, and you think this could help them, then you can just direct them over to YouTube. Driving home, I am a feeling person. That's the whole point, is I am on my path, but I feel energy, I feel vibration, literally 24/7, all the time. I feel physical vibration, energy. So that's my path, and I feel a lot of people at the moment could call themselves lonely, could say I'm lonely. So I just want to go into that, and I will go into the spiritual side of people who are on a spiritual path and the loneliness that they could be feeling as well, because I can explain that too in terms of this timeline. Okay, so what is feeling lonely? The experience of loneliness. What is it? What it truly is, I could say in one sentence and leave the live there, but I realize that won't help people get out of loneliness. If I just say the one sentence, it won't help them rise out of feeling lonely. But that one sentence, that is the highest truth. In any moment where you feel alone, you feel loneliness, it's a moment where you're not in present connection, aware connection to God. So any loneliness is in truth an experience in that very moment of being disconnected to the God within you. And that's all it is. I'm going to go into more detail than that, because that could just not make any sense to some people if they're not on a spiritual path. So, or even if they are and they don't know how to connect to the source or the God within everything, within all living things. So that moment that anybody can experience, just feeling lonely, is a moment where they're in their personality. They're in the overlay that is having the personality experience. A moment of forgetfulness of the connection you always have with the God, source, creator within you. Because the moment you remember that and go within, go into your heart space and feel love within your heart space, there's the absence of loneliness. It doesn't exist. So a reconnection would be to go into your heart center and breathe in to your heart center the feeling of love. It's an energy, but we'll call it a feeling. And then breathe out that energy of love to the whole of your body. Just so that you can reconnect to the energy or feeling within you of love. And when you're in a state of love within you, there's the absence of loneliness. So I want to just try and make that a bit simpler, just to explain it in real terms of how energy works and how we experience all these things, all these feelings that we label. So I've got my ruler out, which I've used many times on lives, but it's a good old plastic ruler. It served me well with these lives. And if we just take that as a scale of energy frequencies, okay, and we're just going to say this is your center point. This is a point of neutrality. This is actually a point where there is no meaning to anything. It's a very neutral presence where you give nothing any meaning. And it's the presence of peace. Joy, harmony is there. But above all, it's a residing peace. Now, if we go this end, so remember that's there, that's the center. If we go this end, we have all these energy frequencies, vibrations within us. And they're on different scales of hertz energy. And then the other side of here is, so we could call those sort of lower energetic frequencies. And then the other side of here, we could call higher energetic frequencies. And what humans have done in their personality mode, in their mind, within their mind, is they label frequencies. So we have an experience, or maybe, we're in a setting and we have an experience, and then we have these thoughts within our personality, within the mind, and more thoughts and more thoughts. And what's happening is our frequency is just lowering. It's just getting lower and lower because of the thoughts that we're having. And then we can reach a frequency that in human linear language terms, personality terms, we label lonely. But all we're doing is labeling a frequency that we've dropped into. That's all. So why do we call it loneliness? Why do we even think that exists? Because in utter truth, loneliness does not exist. What exists is an experience that we call and label and define as loneliness. And the moment we define ourselves as feeling lonely, I am lonely, guess what we're doing? We're setting that into our experience. We're setting it into our reality. We're creating that into our reality. So what we'll have is, if this is where loneliness lies, what we'll have is more experiences of feeling lonely. Because we're going to create more. We're defining it. I am lonely. Excuse me a second. Just get a drink. So, excuse me. So we're defining it as I am lonely. Excuse me, my throat is really going, so I'm just going to take this out so that I don't blast you with a cough. Ever since the virus thing, I've got this cough which I can't quite get rid of, so my apologies. So we're defining an energetic frequency because of a circumstance that we're in, a situation we're in, which creates thoughts within our minds that we're defining and creating and then labeling it as loneliness. So why does loneliness, why do we even decide that loneliness exists in the first place? That's what I want to talk about, and we'll just blow it out the water completely. And hopefully this will help you see the higher truth, the real truth, and set people free, hopefully, of feeling lonely. When we're born into the world, we are taught this and that by society, parents, family, friends, school in particular, college, workplace. And what we're really taught is how to be, how to behave, how to fit in. And we're taught this at a very early age of how to fit in to society. What is the normal way of fitting in? And if I'm perfectly honest, nobody in the world fits in to that idea. So we have pretty much 8 billion people in the world, some of them under the illusion that in order to not feel lonely, you must fit in to the crowd. And then you won't, then you'll be accepted. And fitting in can come in all shapes and sizes. It can be that you speak a certain way, or act a certain way, that you dress a certain way, that you behave a certain way. And as long as you fit into those categories that society says are normal, then you will feel like you fit in, and then you won't feel lonely. But this is where, it affects everybody in the world, not just people who are awakened on a spiritual path. Because, we can take the millionaire with the yacht and the house and the car, financial abundance, and yet with all of that abundance, they can feel lonely. Or you can have many friends, or go into some sort of group or workplace and be around so many people, but you can still feel lonely. You can still feel that you don't fit in. And the truth is that nobody in the world truly fits in. That's the truth. They just try to fit in to an idea of what is normal. And so we feel lonely when we don't fit in to the crowd. We can be in a big crowd, have many friends, and yet we can still feel lonely within many friends, within family, because we know inside we don't fit in. And the truth is that nobody does. It's just that there's this idea of how we should be to be accepted. So many people, they don't have to be awakened, feel lonely. They feel that if they were themselves, they would not be accepted. If they said how they felt, they would not be accepted. If they acted their own way, they might be deemed crazy or whatever, laughed at. So everybody tries to fit in. What it truly is we're wanting to just be accepted for how we uniquely are, because we're all unique facets. We're all unique souls. We're all connected to God. And we're wanting to be accepted just as we are. And for whatever reason in life, we're not accepted. We can then sort of turn inward and go introverted and feel lonely. The extrovert can be very flamboyant, but still feel lonely. Just pretend they're not lonely, when in truth they are. I want to just move on to when people are awakened, and I appreciate that many people have been awakened a long time more than me, and they will have experienced so many years, perhaps possibly, of feeling alone. But when we do awaken, we know categorically we don't fit into this idea of what we are. We realize that there's more, and that's when we go on our journey of self-discovery, because there's something within every human that is the seeker. Whether they choose to seek in their lifetime is up to their design and their plan before incarnation. I call it the crystalline program, because it's a beautiful crystal that we all get given, and it's unique to every one of us. And within that beautiful crystalline program is the moment you get born onto the earth, the moment you might get married, partnerships, jobs, paths, and then the time of your awakening, and then the time of your embodiment, and the time of an exit from the body. So it's a beautiful program of temporary forgetfulness, but the people that have awakened and are continually awakening on the planet have all come and all decided to have that temporary state of forgetfulness. And so when they do awaken, they don't no longer fit in to what they thought was the life experience. They know intuitively, for whatever reasons they've had and experienced, that there's more. And so they go on a search for more meaning. What happens, and this is the part of why really I'm doing the live for people that are on the spiritual path of awakening. It's really why I'm doing it for them as well, is you then find the spiritual community. And so you go on this second journey, because you've awakened from the 3D holographic illusion or paradigm, seeking what else there is, and then you find the spiritual arena, and then you'll go looking for groups that you feel aligned to, that you resonate with. And what's really happening at an unseen level, until it's seen later, kind of like now for a lot of people, but what's really happening when you find these people that you align with and resonate with, they could be just friends who are awakened, or they could be groups of a community, is you then feel more at home with people. You then feel like you've found, people have the phrase, found your tribe, found your soul family. You feel more relieved, because there's actually people out there that you can talk to that understand your language and your experiences, possibly, by degree, whereas people in the three. But what is unseen? Okay, we're still here. It might cut in and out the signal because I don't have Wi-Fi anymore. I just have my phone signal, so it might freeze. So just bear with me if it does. So within the spiritual arena, what is unseen at that point where you find community and you find connection and new friendships? What's unseen is that too is illusion. That's what's unseen. The fourth dimension is also illusionary. In the highest truth, every dimension is illusionary in the highest truth, but we're not going to go into that right now. So people find the spiritual community, the kinship, the soul family, the brothers, the sisters, in that gratitude that these people, don't think they're crazy. They can align, they can chat about this and that. But what it really is that you feel like you're fitting in. And that's the illusion. Because 4D is temporary. And I have said what I'm about to say before. I think I said it a year or two ago. But I'm going to say it again just for remembrance, because we're talking about loneliness and it's huge at this time for people. So I really want to try and support it in the kindest way. It might be hard to listen to the next part, but if you just bear with, because where it leads to is beautiful. So it's worth just bearing with me as I explain. The 4D, what we call the spiritual community, is also illusion within your own dream, because your consciousness creating a human physical body that descends into a separated form and life, into the 3D, you awaken from that and you go into the 4D to find your reconnection. But the 4D is temporary. It's just a transitory dimension to go through. And it's that fourth dimension that we shed, we dissolve all the overlays that make up the personality self that allowed for the experience in the first place, the disconnection experience in the first place. You were never disconnected, you just had the experience of it. So in the 4D, we find spiritual community, people, friends. We make lots of new friendships. But the reason you feel less lonely at first is because you're feeling that you fit in. But it's also illusion. The fourth dimension, the spiritual community, is also illusion. You're not designed to stay there. It's simply a dimension to shed the overlays that you have that get seen by the catalysts outside of you. And so what you experience in the 4D or the spiritual community is you experience new friendships and then they dissolve. You experience going into groups and then you come away from them. So let's fast forward to this timeline now, where people are awakened and they're still feeling lonely. There's this point for everyone that is their unique timeline. So if we go back to the crystalline program that you have, there's this point in that program that you have designed, your soul has designed, your consciousness has designed for you to start to come away from the 4D. And how the human, the personality initially experiences that is that you you no longer resonate with the 4D. You no longer resonate with what we call the spiritual community. You might be still seeking and seeking for answers for your own expansion, but when you go to seek outside of yourself within the spiritual arena, you find that there's very little that aligns to you and your own experience. Now at first it does. When you first go into the 4D, everything aligns. I mean, not everything, obviously, but some of it aligns. But as you're about to leave the 4D, that's when there's you experience in your human personality a lack of alignment with the 4D, with the spiritual arena. So we don't just go from 4D into 5D. We don't just jump from one place to another. There's this leaving, and it's a period that we experience through linear time, where we begin to dissolve. We literally see that the 4D was also illusion. It served us well. It's perfectly designed as this transitory dimension we go through to shed our baggage, to shed our burdens, to shed our belief systems, our behaviors, the false identities that we may have created for ourselves. All of that goes in preparation to go into the 5D. But we don't just jump into the 5D. There's this point of self-realization where you're leaving slowly, day at a time, month at a time, the 4D. And that's when you're feeling alone. It's also a point, actually, it's worth mentioning, because I'm sure a lot of you resonate with this, is that it's also a point where you realize that no matter who you speak to about your own spiritual experience or experiences, you slowly see, it's intentional, but you slowly see that it doesn't matter who you speak to outside of you. There's never going to be anybody outside of you that truly resonates or truly understands your unique experience. And there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody is a point of light. Everybody is a divine facet of God. Everybody has their own soul. So I always see everything as frequency points of light. And so there's a perspective here, perspective there, perspective there, a perspective here. Nobody's ever going to see you from the perspective you have. And that's how it is. That's how it's designed. It's supposed to be that way. But it's at that point where you realize that nobody can truly know your experience, because you've lived X amount of years, you've had X amount of experiences. You can't explain them in 5 minutes or 5 hours to anybody. You have lived through these experiences, no one else. And equally, when a person outside of you explains their experience, you're never going to understand it the way that they are experiencing it. So there comes this point, and I could talk a lot about this, but I don't want to make it too long, this live, but there does come this point where you start to feel, some people can feel alone. They can term it as feeling alone, disconnected from the humanity in the unawakened state and humanity in the awakened state. You can start to feel that you're just on your own again. But it's part of the design. And there's a beautiful, beautiful reason, is you start to stop relying on that which is outside of you for comfort, for support. because you're realizing that nobody truly understands your own personal unique experience. It's quite a hard time, that period, because you're realizing that there's nobody in the whole world that truly understands you. And that's where I feel quite a lot of people are. I'm not saying everybody at all. I'm not categorizing everybody. Please hear me on that. But it's just that you're not designed to stay in the 4D. You're designed to transit out of it gradually in preparation for your 5D consciousness experience, and more than 5D for others as well, many people as well. So that point of feeling utterly alone, where there's not really anybody in the world that understands you, you're wanting people to. You might even feel hurt that there's nobody. But it's at that period of feeling like there's literally never going to be anybody, because you know that 4D is also illusion, that you turn inward, because you realize that there always has been one presence that has been with you for the whole of your life, through every single experience you've had, who has known your thoughts before you had your thoughts, who has known your experience of pain and suffering before you went into that experience of pain and suffering. There was always one presence that knew you better than you knew yourself. And that presence is the God within you, that understands you, that loves you no matter what you think, say, do, act, that loves you, truly loves you, whether you get upset, annoyed, misperceive others, judge others. There's still this continuous utter presence within you, waiting to be found, that loves you for all that you are and all that you experience yourself as. And that presence is God, the God within you. And so you go from seeking the support on the outside, the advice on the outside, asking people questions on the outside, needing company from others on your outside, bearing in mind they're all in your illusion, they're all in your self-created reality. You go from being dependent for your well-being on others on the outside to turning inward, knowing that always waiting for you, for your attention, was God, the God within you, the same God that is within every human being on the planet, the same God that's within every pebble, every stone, every leaf, every tree, every animal, every particle of light, everything that was ever created. So the loneliness is a journey, it's an experience of in innocence, because we descended into forgetfulness of our disconnection to source. So the loneliness is quite an innocent experience, because in loneliness we're forgetting our connection to God. And once a person stops relying on the outside for cancelling out that loneliness, so have a chat with a friend, oh, I don't feel lonely anymore, but it'll only be temporary. And it's only the personality that doesn't feel lonely anymore. So they get their fix. It is like a fix, you know. You can feel in the personality mode, you can feel lonely, and then you connect to, say, 6 people one day, and you come home, you've had a wonderful day, and you don't feel lonely. But it's only temporary, because it's like you're just getting a fix from the outside of you, from the 4D or the 3D illusion. It's only temporary. And so that loneliness will return to you because you're not seeing, understanding what it actually is. When you go turn inward, choose to turn inward, and that's everybody's ready point, you know. Some people will still be wanting to play in the illusion as I speak, and they'll be perfectly happy there, but they will still have their moments of feeling alone. They will. But everybody has their moment to turn inward. And it's quite distressing when you realize, and this is going to come also, I'm going to lead to another beautiful point of self-realization. But when you realize that there's actually nobody outside of you that understands you, that can give to you in every single moment everything that you need to be happy, to be peaceful, to be in harmony, which is what most people want. When you stop relying on the outside and you turn inward, because it's already there within you waiting for your attention. And it's that connection to God. And it's that becomes the turning point for, it's like another stage on the enlightenment path where you turn inward to God. And it is a journey. It might not be, you know, instant, but it is a journey of feeling helpless, feeling down, feeling desperate, feeling so alone that you speak to God. You connect with your energetic emotions, your feelings to God within you, as opposed to looking for that fix or answer from the outside, which is your illusion. And once that connection is made, which can take time because everything is intention, it's not just about asking God once to help you. It's about intention. Think of intention as setting energy layers and energy layers and energy layers. If you keep your intention, guess what happens? You create it. You create it. So that sustained intention for God's help actually creates the connection that every human being has been desiring and missing all along. And when you have that connection, it's within you that becomes the best friend, the one that knows you before your thoughts, that knows what's going to happen next before you do. And you end up sustaining and sustaining and sustaining that connection, because you then realize that the only truth, the one and only truth that exists, is God. Is God. And it doesn't end there. That's the beginning of the connection within you that you could describe as the essence of God within you. And it's felt, it's completely felt. And you feel that reconnection once again. And you can come out of that connection, but then you know what it is. You know how it feels. You know where to turn to. And so you turn back in again. And then you might come out of it in forgetfulness, and then you turn back in again. So in any moment of struggle, and this even goes for physical pain, because I've had a lot of physical pain in the last year. And when I've been in an absolute intense, near blackout stage through pain, physical pain, I knew to go into my soul presence, and within that soul presence there was no pain and suffering. So that connection to God, it's always been there. It always has to be there. It cannot not be there. But it's just that in the forgetfulness, people rely on the outside to fix them, or they rely on a person to advise them, or another person to answer a question, or a group of people to make them feel happy and wanted. They rely on the outside, but there's always, for everyone, something missing, and it's the connection to God. Now, the reason also, sorry, I did digress, but the reason also we sort of turn inward instead of giving our focus to the outside to sustain us is because you have to realize and remember that we're actually embodying our consciousness. So our consciousness, which is a vibrating, pulsating creation of light, it is the master behind the whole of your experience. It is you. Your consciousness is your facet, your divine facet, your light spark. And it is the mastermind of the whole of your life journey, whether you are on a spiritual path or not on a spiritual path. Your consciousness is the mastermind of it. But your consciousness resides outside of time, space, and solidity. So the whole point of us coming is to ascend out of the human experience of forgetfulness and become the consciousness with holding on to the physical body for most people. So if you imagine being the consciousness that was the consciousness that created everything for you all along through vibrations, through frequency alignments, then if that's what you're becoming, you're not going to be reliant on the dream you've already created by the consciousness. You see, the consciousness creates the dream reality you experience. So the human is over here in the solid reality, but the consciousness has created that for you. But this one over here in this solid reality is relying on all the outside. What we're doing is returning to this, to the consciousness with the body, and then we become the consciousness that consciously creates every experience we wish for or desire, and it creates it via frequency alignment, because that's what consciousness is. That's what it does. That's what it did all along. That's why it gave you all those breadcrumbs to follow, all those puzzle pieces that were not in the right order, so we thought, but they always were. They always were. The consciousness was always guiding you back to itself. It's just the human said, well, I want to know this and I want to know that. But the consciousness went, no, this is what you need to know now. This is what you need to focus on now. This is what's in front of you now. And let's do this to become the consciousness again. The pure consciousness outside of physical form that then masters the body, but you're doing it consciously from that consciousness, not from the linear mind. So if you imagine that this consciousness, because this is the truth, is that it created the whole of the 3D and the 4D experience for you to ascend back into the consciousness that you are. You're that master. You're the creator. And so you're not reliant on answers outside of you. You're not reliant on somebody's time and energy to give to you. You're self-sustaining. And as everybody gently, and it's going to take linear time for this to happen, but if you imagine where we're going to, is everybody becomes emotionally and mentally self-sustaining. And so what that means is you get to play in the fifth dimensional reality with other people, other human beings who are also self-sustaining. So nobody drains anybody of energy. Nobody seeks something that they're lacking within themselves because they've already found their connection to themselves. And so what that means is when you do meet people in that fifth dimensional reality, there's no expectations. There's just frequency alignment. There's the joy of connection and the joy of creation. But it's not because you want anything or expect anything or need anything. It's that joy of creation because you've remembered you are consciousness and you've remembered how to create. It's not creation like 3D and 4D. This is creation from consciousness outside of time and space with the body. So there's a beautiful two beautiful reasons why many people that are awakened are feeling what they could describe as lonely. And it's just that, you know, you're leaving the 4D. You're coming out of it. And it's not an easy moment, I know. I went through it about 3 years ago when I realized that the whole of 4D, the spiritual community, was utter illusion, and it was devastating for me. I don't suffer loneliness, I never have, but I can honestly say I felt alone. I felt completely alone, utterly alone, devastatingly alone. And I knew there was nobody I could speak to or turn to that would understand what on earth I was going through. Nobody. Because I knew it was all illusion. I knew everybody in front of me were people in the play that I had created. And that actually, how it feels is that you're the only one existing. And that's because as consciousness, you are the one existing that creates the whole of the reality all around you. So how it does feel is that you're the only one existing and everybody else are people in your dream, in your creation. And it's hard. And I know that many people are finding it very lonely at the moment, but it's because you're coming out of the 4D, and it's a journey. It's not a quick thing, but the idea of it, the design of it, because it's the same design for everybody, it's just a different storyline for everybody, that's all. But the design is that your consciousness is wanting you to turn inward, to truly connect to the God within you and reconnect fully. And the beautiful part about that is that it's everything everybody was ever missing and ever searching for, whether they remain asleep for the rest of their life. There's always something missing. Everybody innately feels, no matter where they are in the world, they innately know that there's something missing. Within the forgetfulness, they innately know there's something missing. And all it was connection to the God within you that loves you in every single moment, no matter how you feel, no matter how you react, no matter what you think, no matter how you judge, whether you're happy, excited, blissful, sad, upset, lonely, however you want to describe energy, there's that eternal presence within everyone, waiting to be reawakened as itself within you and you and you and you. And then there's the absence of that loneliness. And if you ever have just this momentary moment of disconnection, you just go inward and it's there again, because it never ever goes away. So I hope, I pray with all of my heart that if some of this doesn't make sense, watch it again, or just take snippets of it, write parts of it down to help you, because you're never alone. Right now, I'm actually in your dream. So, as your consciousness, you've created it so that you watch this video right now. I'm just in your dream, trying to guide you back to your consciousness, back to your connection. It's your dream, it's your creation. And it is a tough part of the journey, but it's worth it. You just have to go inward. Breathe into your heart, breathe in love to your heart, and ask God for help. Not Tom, Dick or Harry for help outside of you. Ask God. And sustain that asking, that prayer. Sustain it, not just for one moment. That's not going to get created. Sustain it and keep asking and keep asking. If that is your intention, that is exactly what you're going to create. And then you have the connection that is always there, always loving you. Then there's the absence of loneliness and the absence of many, many other frequencies that we label as emotions that are negative. We label them as negative. They're just energies, they're just frequencies. So I pray this helps. And as I say, I'll try and get this onto YouTube. It will take a while because of the lack of Wi-Fi, but it will go on today. And if you feel it will help anybody, it'll be on there too. Okay. God bless you all. I really hope this helps. And I just send love to you all and compassion for whatever you're experiencing. Just loving you back to yourself. That's all I'm doing. I love you. Bye-bye.